10 metal objects in potatoes. Prince Edward Island. In 2016, police were brought in to examine an instance of potato altering in Prince Edward Island after a family found a sewing needle in a dish of potatoes they had stripped and cooked. This came after a spate of potato altering episodes in 2014, during which a few metal articles, including needles, were found in potatoes starting from the island. At the time, the national government promised $1.5 million to put resources into metal recognition hardware, and the commonplace government added $500,000 to prepare additional staff to survey and investigate potatoes for outside objects. Farms influenced by the unusual episodes revealed misfortunes of more than $1 million. Until this point in time, nobody has been involved in the potato wrongdoing, and the riddle of who might stick metal items in spuds proceeds. 9. Robbery in former leper colony. Spinalonga. Spinalonga is an uninhabited island in the Gulf of Alaunda. It is known for being one of Europe's last dynamic untouchable provinces after the last occupant left in 1962. Today it is a mainstream vacation destination in light of its old post and shallow water beaches. The best way to get to the island is by vessel, which is actually what unidentified burglars did in 2018. They showed up on the island, allegedly around evening time, and took around €50,000 from the safe situated in the watchman's room. Examination uncovered that force instruments were utilized to break into the safe. The island has no power along these lines, no alert framework exists, and as there are no settlement choices, the security watches leave at 6:30 each day. To date, the hoodlums have not been distinguished. 8. The abandoned Ghost Palace Hotel, Bali. The Pai Bedugal Taman Rekrisi Hotel and Resort, better referred to nowadays as the Ghost Palace Hotel, was worked in the 90s and afterward surrendered. This obviously before it at any point opened. It currently sits dim and forlorn close by a mountain edge while speculations dash around about what may have happened there. Some occupants tell a story of a land designer so defeat with eagerness that he got engaged with degenerate strategic approaches and in the end came up short on cash. He at that point looked into going Chapter 11 after his inn got reviled as ramification for his detestable deeds. Another, creepier, hypothesis has it that the inn was practical and had paid specialists and paying visitors, however that each and every one of them vanished suddenly and completely one night, leaving just their fretful phantoms to meander the spot forever. It is accepted that the spooky guests could likewise be credited to workers who had to deal with building the inn until they dropped dead. Whatever the genuine explanation is for the hotel being surrendered, still can't seem to be uncovered. 7. Time travel or just a creepy story. Tenerife. On the island of Tenerife, falsehoods. Barranco de Badajoz, a gorge where a few Guanche mummies have been discovered, making it a significant site for archaeological research purposes. Eclipsing its notable essentialness, in any case, are the various reports of abnormal and paranormal action. A few guests to the gorge have guaranteed that at specific focuses, time appears to stop when dusks and watches quit working. Others have announced seeing unexplained lights fluttering over and through the gorge, while some professed to have seen tall otherworldly creatures wearing white. One of the most rehashed stories is the one about the young lady who visited the gorge looking for products of the soil, basically vanished, apparently like a phantom. Search parties discovered nothing to uncover her destiny, and the pursuits were in the long run cancelled. After 20 years, the young lady essentially returned, looking as if she had not matured a day since her baffling vanishing 2 decades sooner. She told local people she had just been away for a couple of hours and was stunned to discover that 20 years had passed. These stories have advanced far and wide to the degree that Barranco de Badajoz is currently considered on par, as far as creep factor, with the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts. Do individuals truly observe into different domains while visiting the gorge? Or on the other hand, are these all simply startling stories intended to engage? 6. Lost Nessie, Magnetic Island. In 2013, beachgoers on Magnetic Island were shocked to see a beast-like article show up in the sea off Picnic Bay. Neighborhood occupant, David Heron, snapped a photograph of the item and chose it looked a ton like the renowned Loch Ness beast. He likewise concluded that he would call it Lost Nessie. The locating is as yet unexplained in 2020, however most accept that the most sensible clarification for the beast-looking like article could be the remaining parts of a mythical serpent vessel that had sunk the prior week during a race. At that point, individuals with any clarification for the locating were encouraged to approach. What's more, without any clarification other than the previously mentioned indented mythical beast vessel, some stick to the conviction that Nessie had stayed with hotter waters subsequent to discovering things apiece excessively nippy in Scotland. 5. Death of a recluse, Great Barrier Island. On 30 June 1999, the deteriorating group of 51-year-old Colin Michael Good was found in his home Close Claris on Great Barrier Island. Good's correct hand was missing, and the remaining parts of his canine were found next to him. Before the disclosure, Good had been seen once and for all in April 1999. He was a known cannabis producer and had been attacked and burglarized of cash and cannabis in 1991. 2 rifles were found in the room where the frightful disclosure was made, yet it was immediately discovered that Good had not passed on of shot injuries. Indeed, no reason for death could be built up considerably after broad and exhaustive posthumous assessments. The case developed cold after some time and remains that path today, without any suspects at any point distinguished or caught. 4. Disappearance from Paradise, Hawaii. There are a ton of spooky stories encompassing the unspoiled heaven that is Hawaii, including the unpleasant night marchers, the phantom of the lady in the red dress, and the choking ghost of Waikiki. Be that as it may, it is the genuine unsolved secrets that really sends a chill down one's spine. For this situation, it is the appalling story of Diane Suzuki. 19-year-old Diane Suzuki was a MOVE educator who lived in Halawa, worked at the Rosalie Woodson Dance Academy and dated Lester Ganton. Diane was arranging an outing toward the north shore of Oahu after work on Saturday 6 July 1985. Her last class finished at 1500 and at 15:15 a companion showed up at the foundation to get her. Diane was mysteriously gone. Her vehicle was still where she had left it that morning and her keys and satchel were inside. After her folks were told of their girl's vanishing, they stayed outdoors outside the institute in their vehicle trusting she would appear. During that time, they saw a man named Dewey Hamasaki, just as his dad and sister, conveying a trunk and stowing it in a vehicle. Dewey was known to really like Diane and filled in as a picture taker at the foundation. He was available when she gave her last exercise. Dewey was addressed and the bog around his home looked. An absence of proof prompted him never being captured or charged. 5.5 years after the fact, garments looking like what Diane was wearing the day she vanished, were found on a pig ranch possessed by Dewey's dad. Frustratingly, after this disclosure, the suspects, Dewey, his dad and sister, just as around 100 observers were brought before a fabulous jury, yet the court declined to squeeze charges. 3C Pants, Baffin Island. In 2017, a photo of a massive rock formation in Canada's Arctic drew all sorts of attention as it resembles a giant pair of pants. The rock was photographed by a hunter, Max Kallick, around 90 kilometers south of the Arctic Bay community. It is only reachable by boat during the summer and is estimated to be over 50 meters tall. The formation, or sea arch, stands overlooking the water of Arctic Bay, and the local Nunavut community have named it Karlingua, which means like pants in Inuktitut. The arch looks so unreal that most people who saw the photograph of it believed it to be photoshopped. 4 Canadian geologists have examined the photo of the sea arch and agree that they had never seen such a formation in the Arctic before, but after an information counselor with the Unikarvik Visitor Center reached out to her sources, she was able to verify that the arch does exist. Some believe it to be a sacred monument and several tourism companies were excited to promote it to their clients. It remains baffling, however, just how this structure remained hidden from the world for so long, considering that one tourism company afterwards stated they had taken groups of tourists to the arch for the past 3 years. To the Hobbits, Flores Island. In 2003, fossils of Homo floresiensis were found on Flores Island. The fossils were little to the point that they were named the Hobbits of Flores Island. The disclosure promptly touched off contention and discussion about whether the fossils were the remaining parts of an obscure part of early people or rather present-day people assaulted by disease. In life, these creatures remained at under 4 feet tall and their cerebrums were 33% the size of current people. In spite of this, be that as it may, they ate meat, traversed the sea to make the island their home, and worked with homemade stone devices. It is accepted that they may have experienced our own species on the off chance that they existed as of late as 50,000 years prior, considering Homo sapiens are thought to have arrived at Australia around 65,000 years ago. The starting point of the hobbits stay obscure in any case, as does their destiny. It is yet to be resolved where precisely they fit into the developmental family tree and what made them vanish. One mystery box, Santa Cruz Island. Dr. Cary Q. Stanton never wedded and in the long run deserted NYC to live on his family's farm on Santa Cruz Island in 1957. He was fairly whimsical, and on the uncommon events he had guests over to the farm he would follow an unbending calendar and anticipate that his visitors should stick to it also. Supper would be served at 7:30 p.m., espresso and treats at 8:30 p.m., and he would expeditiously resign to bed at 9 p.m. Stanton kicked the bucket on the 8th of December 1987 and was covered in the island's private graveyard. His will expressed that the farm be left to the Nature Conservancy, who might administer exercises on the island. In April 1990, a metal box was found in a shed on the farm. Inside it were seriously decayed human remains that was fundamentally only a pile of cinders. Nearby the remaining parts were sets of dentures going back to the 50s, a garment's clasp going back to the 40s, and a precious stone-studded ring going back to before the Second World War. Tests were done on the sections of bone found, and it was set up the remaining parts had a place with an old female who in all likelihood kicked the bucket not long after the war. While Stanton was never accepted to have been liable for the lady's demise, it stays muddled why her remaining parts were in a metal box on the farm. She has likewise never been distinguished.